I just want to take some time to explain here some of the basics before we get started. Or maybe this is an interlude. It's a little bit of B-roll, so I'm not really sure where I'm going to put this. So, according to George Bridgman, we will refer to this little book as the Gospel of Drapery, I suppose. So he talks about 7 different kinds of folds, and it's pretty useful if you're just getting your feet wet with folds. He has diaper, zigzag, pipe, half lock, inert, drop, or spiral. And he claims that we can find all these patterns on Nike of Samothrace. So, Winged Victory. But he goes into some detail, and I just want to give a little demo, if I can, to show what's going on here. So a straw kind of illustrates this, that when we are dealing with drapery, and it bows like this, I hope that this is caught on camera. Let's bend it in the middle. You should be able to see where this does not bulge out the back. This just kind of continues over. But it gets super thin in the eye there of the fold. And then what we can see is this kind of swelling back out to the main form. But when we twist it this way, we can see how it pushed out on the sides, or on the top and bottom. So this is what happens in drapery. So it's kind of whole, and then some force is placed on it in a particular place because of gravity or an object or change of direction, and we create the eye of the fold, and this ends up having a radiating out form from this point on the outside, this kind of tangent point. So if we were to draw this, and I'll just put a little curve here, like so. This comes up, and now this is headed up this way, and then back down. But mind you, it's super thin because it moved up and down. So it's looking more like this. Yeah, so that comes down like so. And this is going to be the part that is the deepest, let's say. And so that's kind of the effect. And if you were to bend that straw again, say, take it this way, not quite as steep, we could kind of expect to see something happening like that. And you'll see this type of pattern in the drapery. But the idea is that when we move into, and this is the eye, all right? Eye. As we move into these patterns, which I'm about to show you, you'll have a pretty good understanding. Let's see here. So this is just a wet paper towel. This is just a wet paper towel here. This is just to give us a basic idea. So your most common form of drapery is going to be what they call a drop. So this is basically a drop fold. This is where you see this kind of hanging pattern originating from one point. This is very, very common. If we say pin it in 2 places and begin to let it sag like so, this is what we call a diaper drape, a diaper. And let's see here. If we say like change, let me just grab it right here, for example. Well, you know what? Here's what I'm going to do. I'm grabbing it from opposite corners. But let's say this here. They could call this like an abrupt change of direction. This would be what they call a half lock fold. Very interesting in my opinion. First off, that's inert. It's when the drapery lands on the ground. But if we were to say, put the Dixie cup down. Here we're starting to see zigzag folds, where it starts to just come down and maybe repeat. So these are characteristic zigzag folds, right? Now if we say like we have a cylinder, like a sleeve, and we begin to drop it, like so, right? So that's what you're going to see on a sleeve, and that's what we call a spiral fold. It has, I'll just try to pick it up really quick so you can kind of see. See, it bulges out, and there's indentations. It's kind of like an X, but then it has a bit of a repeating pattern. You'll see it when you study your model. So let's see, we talked about diaper, zigzag, pipe, half lock, inert, spiral. We talked about drop. Pipe is going to be more like a shower curtain. Let's just see if I can weave this between my fingers. So pipe drape is going to look like a curtain, like on a stage. You get the idea. Where it starts to just hang straight down. So pipe drape, shower curtains, sometimes the ones that, you know, have that waviness, creates all the pipes. And it differs from a drop, even though they're similar, because this one is from one fixed point creating this type of pipe. And usually it has more personality too, because you start to see these types of folds. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started on the little drapery demo. Okay, here we go. So what I'm trying to do here is create the illusion of the drapery. What I've done is just taken 3 simple sections of the paper towel here. I've soaked it in water and I wring it out. These are still wet from being cast in plaster. So if it's not, you're either going to want to seal this somehow or soak it in a bucket of water before you apply this wet, because the plaster will immediately begin to absorb the water out of your drapery here. So I'll just set that here for a second. I do have a spritzer bottle, and this is just to help it. This is to help it stay wet so that it doesn't dry out too much. So on the back here where I pulled these 2 pieces together, I've used tape, see, to hold that together. And let's hope that stays long enough until I can get the next piece down. I put a tape underneath here, but she's a little too damp because I wanted a little bit of this tautness right there. And the Hydra Stone isn't going to take the water so much. I mean, it's a little resistant. But anyway, with this being wet, it'll stick to the figure a little better. So you have to determine ahead of time what your major course of action is going to be. I did a quick sketch of the form here, and I realized that I have this kind of S movement, since this is the angle, the main angle here, so that the S will kind of flow through and through the hip and come out. I didn't want to do a W and bring it back through. If she hadn't started out here, maybe I would have to create that S, but I'm satisfied, like, you know, carrying out. So on some of these folds here, because we want to make sure, since we're working in the round, that this looks good from a lot of angles, I've just used a wooden knife and kind of tucked edges in a little better, and made sure that this is really how I want it, because I want to accentuate the figure with the drapery. We don't want to hide the figure. You never want to hide the figure. Don't even use it to cover up flaws. Just get the flaw right. What I'm really trying to do here, if you Alphonse Mucha, in the style of Alphonse Mucha, is create this kind of like busyness, but, you know, give it moments of rest too in the material. And this I may want to leave hang on the bottom, hang off like that. Look at that, you can see where I'd originally tucked it underneath the form. I'm not really thrilled about that, but I think maybe I'll be okay. So that's her rib cage there. And while I'm doing this, I can also kind of pull this. This is the point of tension here on the hip. You can see the folds are coming in this way. This is the idea. They're all kind of meeting at this point. I don't really want to create a conflicting fold. I mean, it's okay. Look at that, it's already drying out. So this will give you a better idea of what I'm trying to do here. I'm going to get the second cloth lined up and get that ready to go. Now, by tucking that in, I want to make sure that there's a reason for that. I don't necessarily want it to be tucked in there, unless I can somehow justify that fold. I'll go ahead and leave it for now. I'm pretty satisfied. I'm thinking that this is going to be the direction that this goes. See, when I brought that under, that kind of created another fold. And I like how that landed because it closes off that leg. I could take advantage of that. So look, here's the point. We drape this plaster casting, and I'm going to put clay. I'm going to copy this in clay on top of her. So this is going to be my sculpture. Of course, I'll plug that hole up and so forth. I glued her down to this board so it doesn't teeter as much. With the clay on here, I can put clay arms. I'm going to attach my Mercedes star on here, and this will in essence be the prototype for casting. I'll remove the hood ornament, the star, probably remove the arms, and then cast this plaster figure with the clay on it as my new sculpture. So then every cast after that is going to, you know, obviously be pure plaster. So I'm turning Andromeda into Mercedes, and this is the approach of how to do this. Okay, I'm just going to keep my wet drapery there inside of a Dixie cup. I do like my idea of the wood glue on the form. It's going to keep that nice and taut. I may not ever use this figure for anything else but this, so this is okay. I mean, this is kind of a throwaway piece after I'm done. Kind of like a hospital gown, I suppose. And we'll turn her around to see how she's doing. A second. See what I'm doing? I'm trying to roll this fabric so that it looks more like a spiral. It's a little more of an interesting form. I may cover it up, I may not, but if it's left out, I don't want to see it that way. I don't want to tear that. Wonder. See how that's pulling taut like that? And it takes this bagginess out and kind of lifts it. Adds a little more stretch and dynamic right here. That's what I want. I'm going to pull that taut. And it shows off this hip a little more. That's what I'm going for. What I'm trying to do here is create a little more dynamic with a pocket. You have these folds going on. For the time being, I think I want to leave her back exposed, so I'm trying not to wrap that too tightly. There, that's a good fold in my eyes. Okay, so that's that. I think what I'm going to do in order to keep this bottom piece from moving, just put that like so. See if I can leave my name and date at the bottom, showing a little bit. That's looking pretty good for a first layer, I think. I'm not really sure what I want to do with this quite yet. I'm not quite sure. I mean, I want her to be tasteful, that's for sure. I'm just playing right now. This is part of the creative process. And so when I pull this around, I'm trying to keep the corners and such that way. But you see how these folds are all piling up here? If I kind of, like I'm folding a towel, I can create a little more interest in the folds that way. But don't let the pieces stick together before you do that. Kind of leave them loose in the middle. Okay, so that looks fantastic. You can see here how that's tucked up. It's no longer hanging down. Maybe just for fun. I'm just going to put a little glue on there. See what happens. So this is where our real artistic license comes in my opinion. So the next stop is to make this appear on here. All right. Thanks, guys.